everyone. Welcome to Pieces of Travel. I'm your host, storyteller, creator, Marisha, behind it all. And I'm here today to introduce you to someone very special. So, here on the pod, as you might know, I have my stories. However, I wanted to try to go a different avenue with everything and just sit down with people and have some, little chats, little conversations about their travel experiences and places and how they felt about it instead of just a one sided perspective. So, I am so excited to introduce to you today the man sitting right next to me,
The man.
Gonzalo. um, he, as you may have seen him in some photos or videos of mine. He is my sometimes model, and he is my biggest fan. Welcome again, Gonzalo, my husband.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you so much for being here today with me. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your weekend schedule to have a little chat with me. So, as you guys know, or maybe you don't know, if you haven't listened to the last podcast episode in Torre de Pine, which is in the southernmost part of Chile, in part of Patagonia, you've got to go listen to it. Um, However, we actually were in Chile for a whole month. And there was a lot more that surrounded or that encompassed in our trip than just Torre de Pine. So I wanted to just get kind of overall perspective from you and our trip. So let's get right into
you. Okay.
it. So Gonzalo's native Chilean. Um, he's been living in the US for quite some time now. So I wanted to know, how did it feel to be back in a place you lived a significant amount of time of your life for the first time in like 20 years?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, because I was born and raised in Chile for 13 years. So, um, I actually have lived most of my life in the States. So, yeah, it was definitely a roller coaster. I thought I was going home, but then it didn't feel quite like home because it also has been a long time since I've been there. So it's just a mixture of both, like home, not home, and but overall, like just a lot of emotions. I always just to see all the people that, all the family, everyone that I haven't seen for so many years. So it's just very emotional.
Yeah, I can only imagine how that felt. Do you have
Well, you were
any?
there, right?
Well, yes.
You saw it, all the tears.
But I was also having my own experience, and I've never
That's
been to
true.
Chile before, so it was a completely different experience for me
That's true.
versus you. Um, what surprised you, and this might kind of tie into that last question, what surprised you most from our trip, just in total? Well, I
Um,
guess let's backtrack a little bit. So, can you explain all the other things other than the park that we did during our month in Chile, and then you can kind of go into maybe what surprised you the most?
I'll give like a little context of everything that,
Yeah, like an overview.
yeah, I can go for hours. But so yeah, so we went to Chile after 20 years, and kind of the main goal of it was to see family. But of course, we couldn't miss the chance of going to Patagonia, so we went all the way south, and they kind of we worked. We did the Patagonia 5 days, and then we work our way up to the capital. So we went to different family members, kind of did a little like road trip across the southern part of Chile, and pretty much I had family in all different stops. So that pretty much that was kind of the goal of it, is just to see as many family members, especially the ones that I'm closest to, cousins and um, everyone.
Excuse our dog West. He's a little adventurous himself.
Yeah. So
So tell me, what were some of the other cities that we went to
Oh
while
yeah,
we were there?
so we went to Punta Arenas, Puerto Natales, and we went to Puerto Montt, which is kind of all in the southern part, and then Pucón as well. Then we went to some of the most rural areas, Los Angeles, which is it's crazy. There's a city called there, Los Angeles, and it's a very small city. And my grandma actually lived in a smaller town outside of that, which is probably, I don't know, 500 people,
Maybe.
maybe. So super small, like just a few stores. It's a small plaza. So, and then we went to see my other grandma, another small city outside, very rural. These are people that are kind of doing their own planting their own vegetables. They got chickens, so definitely a lot more of that rural raw life. So, and then we went back to the capital, and then we saw more family. So very family oriented trip. I think what surprised me the most, though, I would say, is because I haven't seen a lot of these people for so long. I don't think I was expecting so much warmness in the
Yeah.
people, and everyone, and even people that I did not know that I just met for the first time. I think they always want to stay close to each other. So, for example, a lot of my family that live close to each other and they help each other always.
Well, it's part
Um,
of the culture, right? Like
oh yeah,
that's ingrained in the Chilean culture.
yeah,
Very
yeah,
hospitable and
exactly. And I have lived that here a little bit, just within my own family, kind of, you know, bringing people, having people welcome to, come to our house, inviting people over. But was just a whole nother level that I completely forgot about. So that
yeah,
was the most surprising part for sure.
yeah. From what we saw, what was the biggest difference in how people live there compared to how people live in the States? Do you think it has do you think that's the biggest component? Is just that hospitability and people just being super close and always being with family, or is there more to it than that?
Um, Good question. I I think that's most of it. I think at the same time, um, yeah, I feel like here in the States, people kind of want their own space. They kind of seek maybe more independence from each other, more space. And over there, they're just people always seeking closeness.
Happy to be around others.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah,
would say, yeah, that's definitely the biggest item.
yeah, absolutely. Um, what was your favorite city or place that we visited and why? This is something that's actually, I don't think I've asked you yet,
No,
and I'm
and I
really
don't know.
curious to know. Okay, if you can't choose
No,
one,
no.
maybe your
I,
top two.
I mean, for sure, Pucón
Yeah,
is one of them.
that's
Just
my
be,
favorite.
yeah, just because it's good ambient. It's almost feel like we could live there for sure. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that we couldn't live in the other cities, but that was definitely one of my favorites. Um,
Why
and
Pucón?
the other ones, huh?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the other ones is I would say kind of where my grandma lived, and I think that's more just because of the
So,
connection there.
right, I think for those two places, they're very different,
Right, one
maybe.
is definitely more rural than the other.
Right. And maybe your reason. So, my question of why you picked those cities,
Mm.
um, I'm suspecting might be very different, but you tell me.
Yeah, Pucone was like just because it's a more touristic city, has a lot to offer. It's more almost like a lifestyle,
Yeah.
and that's why I like it. The other one is more just because my grandma lives there, and I grew up in some of those rural areas, and it just brings a lot of memories.
Yeah.
So just have more of an emotional connection to them.
Kind of takes you back to your childhood when you were there,
Yeah, for sure.
reliving those memories. That's beautiful. Um,
What about
so,
yourself?
You speak Spanish fluently.
Sí.
But I'm curious to know, everybody has their own experiences with languages that they're not fluent in when they're traveling. But did you feel any type of language barrier, maybe with idioms or slang that they use? I know obviously you talk to your family, so you might know some of it, but was there anything or any point of time during our trip where you kind of felt off guard and you're like, whoa, I I haven't heard this before. That's not familiar to me. I don't understand what that means.
I did, and but most of those words and stuff, it was just, yeah, it's like a slang that it have been updated since I left the country. So it's yeah, there were just words that kind of more just slang, and I would ask like, wait, what does that mean? And people would just kind of get a laugh at it because for them it's such a like common sense, but for me I haven't heard them in so long. Like I never heard of them. So
Right.
um, but it wasn't nothing crazy where I couldn't kind of get it right away and continue talking to them and communicate with them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You used your context clues to figure out what
exactly,
was going on.
exactly. Yeah, and I think to me the hardest part in the language is almost like is translating it what I'm thinking to Spanish
Do
because I
you
have
primarily think in English now?
most of it. Yeah, yeah, it's half and half.
Even though
It all
Spanish
dep
is your first language.
Yeah, it all depends on the situation. So if I'm at work, I'm thinking in English. If I'm with my family, I'm thinking in Spanish. If I'm with you, in English. Um, so I think it depends on the situation. So when I was there,
Right.
I was thinking mostly in Spanish. But yeah, but then I don't have all the words in Spanish sometimes.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, it's crazy.
I'm sure that's kind of a lot to process and think about all at one time
Yeah,
when you're in a
because
conversation.
yeah, that's why sometimes you're talking and then an English word comes out and out of nowhere, people are like, what? Or the opposite. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So my next question for you is, what food would you recommend to someone if they're visiting Chile in particularly that maybe they just have to try? What food would you recommend?
Empanadas for sure. And then empanadas is how would you describe it? An empanada. um, it's like a bread that inside it has beef, olive, it has boiled egg as well, caramelized onions. So it's super good, and they're big, right? And the other one I would say is the corn pudding or pastel de choclo,
Yeah.
and that one is one of my favorites too. The corn there in Chile is very sweet, so it's corn, it's beef. It also has eggs too, so very heavy on the corn and beef.
Right. Yeah. It's a very interesting dish if you haven't had anything like it before. And if I remember correctly, you put sugar on the
You on
top of it
top,
when you
yeah,
eat it, even though it's like a
I don't,
meal.
yeah, that's crazy.
Super interesting. um, is there anything that we haven't already kind of talked about? Something maybe specific that we did that was exciting to you during our whole trip?
Um, hmm. Well, yeah, I think too. There's a couple. One is going back to some of those places. I don't know if you remember, like as we were driving, and or we're getting close to my grandparents' house, for example. I would tell you, oh, I remember I used to, you know, play in this area, and I used to do this in this area. So those are kind of the most exciting moments, and they're small and but super intense. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. And then the other one was the, what is it called?
Kayaking?
No, but we didn't do kayaking. We did the
Oh,
water
we did
rafting.
water rafting.
Water
Yeah.
rafting.
In Pucon.
Yeah, and that was cool
That
too.
was incredible.
And the whole trip that we did up to the mountains in Pucon, where we saw some of those indigenous trees that's been there for thousands and thousands of years, um, and all the indigenous part, that kind of the cultural thing that we learn a lot on Pucon. We had family and friends there that were pretty well knowledge of the indigenous history there, so we got a really good sense for it, and that was actually really exciting.
Yeah, that was really cool to get some of the backstory on it that maybe not is told to everybody that visits there.
Exactly.
Just because of the knowledge that the family friends had.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was awesome. Um, what challenges did you face, or maybe we faced, or you faced by yourself while we were traveling, or what maybe not in this particular experience of going back to Chile, but now we've been to a few other places. So, what challenges do you think you've faced since traveling?
Like overall, or just on that trip?
Either,
Mm.
either.
Because on that trip was hike,
Right.
5 days.
So explain,
was,
explain.
So we got into this W trail in the Patagonia. We thought we got it. It's just a trail. It shouldn't be a big deal. We're in good shape. We're healthy people. And that thing was crazy because it's just going uphill the entire time.
It was so
And
intense.
for like 5 to 7 hours a day. So our ankles were just, it was just bad.
Ankles,
Knees.
knees, heads.
At some point, we would just stop and be like, what the heck did we get into? But
Yeah.
it was worth it.
Yeah.
Worth it.
I remember feeling at one part like this. It was after day 2, right? And I think maybe in part of my story I mentioned something, but it's like, oh my gosh, this is the last chance we have to leave easily before we have to finish through the whole part. Like if something happens, where you have to get out somehow unless they airlift people, but I didn't see any helicopters when we were there.
Right.
So I don't think that's really, maybe they get one of the horses and somebody gets severely injured and brings them in, but
And it's so there's so much like space, right? When you're walking through some of the trails, sometimes you see people coming from the opposite direction, but you're pretty much alone a lot, of the time. Um, I remember putting my feet in the river, in the water.
yeah,
So hopefully, yeah,
trying
I
to
didn't kill any fishes because of that.
trying to ice your ankle a
Ice
little
my
bit.
ankle, yeah, because they were pretty swollen too. So, but
Yeah.
anyways, I think um, I think I have not been challenged enough yet, and I think you and I talked about this. Um, I think I need to be challenged again in terms of language barriers, because a lot of the trips that we have taken until now, I think I've been pretty comfortable with them.
Right. So far we've only been to Mexico and Chile.
Yeah.
Other than stuff in the US.
Right.
That's not a problem.
Not at all. So yeah, I want to go to India, Africa. I don't know, and get challenged. But something I do share with you a lot is like, well, do I really need to get challenged? I already got challenged enough coming to this country when I didn't speak a word of English, and trying to, immerse myself in this culture. That was already super challenging, and it was pretty depressing, to be honest. So it's almost like maybe that's why I'm not like, when I'm saying like I need to get challenged, I'm not that thrilled about it.
Right. Yeah.
But I do get it. Like I think, as a tourist, maybe now that I'm in a much better position and situation, I think it will be really cool just to try to figure out what people are saying and
Right.
um,
Having no clue what's going
right.
on or
But I
getting
have some
lost.
experience in it, so I feel like I can
You'll be able to navigate a little
navigate
bit
it.
more
Yeah,
swiftly than some
yeah,
other people.
exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well,
Uncle Dale?
kind of
Sorry.
following that idea and talking about us traveling more, as a new traveler, what do you hope for our future for our future trips? What do you hope to get from traveling? Because I to me, pushing yourself and being uncomfortable is what helps you grow, and I'm sure that has helped you grow into the person that you are today, going through those whole experiences. And I think that's what people crave when they travel, is being pushed, getting uncomfortable even though you don't like it. But at the end of the day, it makes you grow as a person and you become just a more beautiful version of yourself. So, what are you looking forward to in our future trips and travel?
Um, hmm. To be honest, it's not much about personal growth, but more about being present and enjoying it and absorbing it. I think I think here in the States we live a pretty hectic life. It's always something and it's like a nonstop and you work really hard and you're always trying to make things happen. We're very kind of very goal oriented, trying to get to the next level in all different aspects of our lives. So, um, and that's something like in Chile, for example, the people it's different. I think it's almost over there. There's not much excess of things, so it's more about just having enough. But so um, I think I'm looking for just being present and being able to just enjoy it and learn the history part too. I think that's why I'm kind of fascinated by it and
Yeah,
looking forward to it. Yeah. So
big history nerd here.
yeah.
Over there, I mean.
Yeah. So
Just
yeah,
learning,
learning and just
enjoying.
enjoying the present moment.
Absolutely.
Slow down.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here today again. Really appreciate your time and walking through some of the questions that I haven't asked you yet. It's been really entertaining and fun to do. So, thank you again for coming on. And
Thank you for the invitation.
of
I
course.
know. It didn't take me that long to get here. I just got out of
I
bed and came in. Well, Liz, do you have anything to say? No. Okay.
think he's good. All right, guys. Until next time.